For this one, you'll need a tree form, and I'm just going to use one of these plastic tree forms inside this tinsel tree from the Dollar Tree. And I do take my wire cutters and I cut off all those little nubs just so it'll be a little bit smoother for me. You could cover this in paper. I just took this brown masking tape. It seemed like it'd be the quickest thing to do, and covered that tree form. And then I'm going to take some cardboard. I'm going to wet down the top of it because I just want that corrugation to show. So I'm going to take off this top layer of paper. I just took some paper towel and wetted them down and let that soak for about 5 minutes. That does help that paper to release from that corrugation there. I'm going to cut out a bunch of leaves, and at first I was just freehanding them, and I thought, oh, I can make them all the same shape and size just by eye. But I wised up and just took one of the leaves that I liked and traced around it and used it like as a template for the rest of them. I have this wood hanging decor, this wood round from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to fill that hole with some wood filler. You could leave, there's a lot of things you could do with this, but you could leave these leaves the plain corrugated color. I'm going to take this water-based stain and stain them. Y'all, while I was staining these, I was thinking, what do these look like? These look like something. These look familiar to me. They're resembling something. And then it hit me. Do y'all see what they look? Do y'all know what they look like? What do y'all think they look like? Y'all, I made pecan halves. It looks like a pecan half. I'm gonna be making a pecan tree. They're supposed to be leaves. And I thought, well, I've got to scrap it. Like I've got to use maybe, they didn't look like pecan halves when they were the cardboard color. And so I thought, well, I've got to go back. Because I don't want to make a pecan half tree. But and then I got to thinking about it and I was like, no, I say that they're leaves. So they're leaves. They're brown leaves, but they're leaves. And so they're leaves. And really, would I make a pecan tree? Pecan halves are very expensive. So no, I would not craft with them. But if they were cheap, would I craft with them? Yes. Yes, I would. I would probably make a pecan half tree. I know me. I probably would. Because that sounds kind of cool to me. So it might not to you. That might sound crazy to you. But if if you like the color, if you don't want them to look like pecan halves, maybe you're not seeing it. And maybe it doesn't bother you. It was bothering me for a minute. But if you like the color, but don't like that it made them look like pecan halves, you could do the other side and just have smooth sided leaves. But, and then, really it didn't look like them until I stained them. And so if you left them this natural color, which is usually what people do when they work with cardboard, they leave it this natural color because it's almost like, hey, isn't this cool? It's made out of cardboard. I think is why they leave it that natural cardboard color. So you could do that, and that was my original plan. And then I just looked over at my stain and thought, I wonder what it would look like stained. Well, I thought it looked really nice at first until I realized they look like pecans. But it's all good. I'm gonna keep going. I think I'll still like it. Once that wood filler dried, I sanded it, and then I made a quick template out of paper. And I just folded that in half and folded it in half again. And then I just cut off the very corner there, and that's the center of my circle. I just marked that, and then I took my rotary tool and I made a hole big enough. I didn't go all the way through the wood round. I went most of the way down, and then I just made the hole big enough for a skewer stick to go down into. I used wood glue to secure that. It was also a very tight fit. I was glad of that, so it seemed pretty sturdy, and I'm going to stain that with that same Varathane gel stain. Now this obviously is a little bit unstable, and so I wanted to give this thing the best chance it had to be stable, so I put this styrofoam up inside of the tree form. Of course, if you're using a paper mache form, if you ever recreated this, that you wouldn't have to do this step. I did want to cover the bottom so that if you picked up the tree, you wouldn't just see up in there. So I did put tape on the bottom, and then I'm just going to make that look better by taking some brown paper and decoupaging that to the bottom of the tree. I cut a little hole in the bottom, and it wasn't quite dry yet, that paper, but I wanted to keep working. And then I just stuck that down on there, and it was a pretty sturdy hold. I then proceeded to glue all my little leaves onto the tree. You could definitely paint these green instead of staining them. You could add snow, like paint the tips, the bottoms of each of these leaves white, or use some faux snow on them. That would be really pretty. I like things very plain. If you've watched me for any amount of time, you know that I like things pretty plain. And so I liked them just as they were, but you could customize this to your liking for sure. I was showing you there that near the top, you might have to overlap the leaves a little bit, and you can also bend them. They bend easily, obviously, because they're cardboard. And, maybe sort of hug the very top of the tree with the cardboard there. I know I said this all last year and in the beginning of this year's Christmas crafting, but I finally bought some stars to put on top of any little trees that I make. And so I can put these in my Amazon store. They're just little metal rusty stars. I don't know if y'all remember this at all from last year, but if anyone wants to send me a Christmas card, I will send you one back. And for those of you that sent me Christmas cards at the very end of the season last year, because I pretty much mentioned it right at Christmas, so it was a little too late to exchange cards at that point. But anyone that sent me cards last year, I will send you one this year. And you can go on my channel, and there you will find my mailing address, and my mailing address will also be in the description box of this video. For this one, I have this jar from the Dollar Tree. I really do like it, but I saw it, I've been seeing this jar for over a year, and when I saw it, I thought, that looks like Santa's bag to me. And so I'm going to make a lid for it. It doesn't come with a lid. It's just an open jar, decorative jar thing. And I found it in the crafting section, kind of just in the general decor. But I took a wide mouth canning lid and ring, and I glued them together with E6000 so they would be one piece instead of two. I did like the twine bow, that came on it. And if I could have gotten it off of there without cutting it, I would have reused it, but I couldn't. I gave it the old college try, but I couldn't get it off of there, so I had to cut it, which was probably for the better anyway, because it was a little rough looking. I am going to reuse that button on that bow there. Now I want to paint this with True Burgundy acrylic paint by Folk Art, and I was going to go straight into painting with that, but then I realized I should use some chalk paint first. Chalk paint does really well on glass. A little bit better than acrylic paint. A lot of times you have to do a lot of coats of regular acrylic paint, because it's pretty thin. So I gave a base coat of the crimson chalk paint, and if you like bright colors, you might be thinking that looked good, that bright red, and you could definitely paint it that color. That was a pretty a pretty color, but I went ahead with the true burgundy. I want this to look like Santa's bag, so I want to make it look like it has stuff coming out of it. But I didn't want, you could just make some little presents and stick them in the jar and be done with it, call it a day. But I wanted to be able to use this jar to either put a candle in it or to put some candy in it or store something inside. And so I'm going to attach some items that would be in Santa's bag on top of the lid. And I'm just going to glue it and have it be one fixed piece. I made these little presents out of just wooden blocks that I wrapped in paper. And I made these little candies out of pencil grips that I just covered in some red stripe fabric. And I'm going to take this little horse piece here from the Dollar Tree. I'm just going to remove the horse so that it looks like a toy horse sticking out of Santa's bag. And I'm just going to hot glue all the pieces down in here. And I'm going to try to make them look like they're leaning, like it's natural. Like this stuff is sort of spilling out of the top of Santa's bag here. And as a filler, I just used these red berries. I racked my brain trying to think of something. I almost used some raffia. Maybe, how in a package, an old package or an old crate, you would see some straw or something in there as some packing material. I almost put some straw in there, but I went with these red berries because I knew it would give a pop of color and that it would just look more festive. I thought I was done here, but I wasn't. I'm going to add one more thing, to these items. And then also I wanted to make some trim for it. You don't have to do this part, but I do think it looked better. Now I used this chunky yarn from Walmart and I almost just glued it on there and called it a day, but I wanted to tea stain it. Once that was dry the next day, I just glued that around there, and I really liked how it helped with the illusion that these items were coming out of an overfilled bag. And then, of course, I wanted to add back in the twine so that that's what, Santa uses to keep the bag closed. That was some good hot glue that had that button on there. I could hardly get it off of there. And I was thinking as I was trying to get it off of there that I wish Dollar Tree sold hot glue that good. Their hot glue isn't the best hold, but a lot of times when we're taking some of these items apart, it's very good hot glue because you cannot get the thing off of there. This would be really cute to pour a candle in here, take a Dollar Tree candle and melt it down and pour it in here. And, give it as a gift or fill it with something to give as a gift. And I really think that this is my favorite piece out of all three of these today. There was a blank space that just kept looking at me on top of the bag there. And so I did make a little wreath out of one of these pine ties from Hobby Lobby. I know I'm shocked too. I'm using something that's not from Dollar Tree or Walmart, but I do like these ties better than the ones at Dollar Tree. They look a lot nicer. This is just a quick reminder that if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. That way you don't miss any future videos. And don't forget that if you really like this video, to give it a hype as well. If you're watching it in the first 7 days that it came out, I'm slowly learning the rules of this new thing. I have this mirror from the Dollar Tree. It was originally black and I used it in another project, but I really wanted an arch frame and this was the only one I had. So I had to sacrifice the project that I had made this with. Now the frame came with these really deep grooves, and for the last project I used it on, I filled them up just to make the grooves shallow, but now I want to go ahead and completely fill up those grooves so that it's a smooth frame. And so I just filled those grooves with lightweight spackling from Walmart and then sanded that once it dried. I gave it a base coat of ivory chalk paint. This mold from, I believe, Redesign is in my Amazon shop. There's the link on the screen and that link is in the description box as well. And I'm just going to take some air dry clay and use this mold here. I just love this particular mold. I use it all the time. Y'all are probably like, yeah, we know. I used Aleene's tacky glue to adhere this, and it didn't matter that it broke in the during the transfer there. I just, stuck it next to each other and glued that down. I made some corner pieces with just the center of the mold there, and I'm going to put these in the corners, the bottom corners. I started out painting it toasted marshmallow. That was a little too yellow, so I went with antique parchment, and then I went over the details and all the sort of edges with gold leaf rub and buff. I really like the toasted marshmallow, but I wanted this frame to be the same color as the printable, if that makes sense. I wanted it to be kind of monochromatic. This will be a printable in the description box if you're interested. They're free. All my printables are always free. And it's a link directly to the printable. If this tree looks familiar, it's out of a book from the 1800s. So it's in the public domain. And you might recognize it. I know some other sort of design companies have put out crafting items featuring that tree, but I just put down there that 'twas the night before Christmas, got that out of another old book, and got the other vine holly details there on the top corners from another book. I love making printables for you guys. I find the photoshopping pretty fun. Don't forget that if you're looking for any of the craft supplies or tools that I use, you can find those in my Amazon shop. There's the link, and the link will also be in the description box. And I keep that updated. I know each little section there says just a few items in each category, but I keep it updated and keep adding to it. And if you ever see something and it's not in the store, just let me know and I'll make sure to add that. But that's it for this one. I thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. See you in the next one.